Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ipshita Mohanty, and I'm part of Value Labs. It's an IT services company in Hyderabad. I head the HR business partner team and also the campus recruitment teams and learning and development. Looking forward for this wonderful panel discussion.
Thank you. I am Sumati Sampath. I head the talent acquisition for Infosys BPM division. I come with close to 30 years of experience. I look forward for an interactive session. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sanjay Chandel. I represent SterlingCheck.com. We are world's one of the largest background screening company, headquartered in New York and based out of Thane. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I am Nilab Kapoor. I represent OLX People. I look after, we're trying to build a business in permanent recruitment and staffing solutions. I look after that piece. And we typically are today focusing on building a best-in-class technology stack around AI ML. And that's where this topic is very relevant and interesting to me. Thanks.
Okay, so we'll start. What a challenging session soon after lunch. I think we should speak to the organizers next time and pitch for a better timing. Anyway, we'll do our best because I have all the eminent speakers with me. So the topic is impact of ML in HR. Right? We are on fourth industrial revolution, which is technology, mainly technology, AI, machine learning, big data, analytics. So with all this, right, market is highly volatile and disruptive. And we are in the world of VUCA, driven by SMAC. We all know what VUCA is, right? And again, we are driven by SMAC. With all this, just want to know, where we are heading to. So with this, I would start my first question. Technology is changing human resources. The way or how do you think it can transform in the future? Sanjay, to you.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Technology is impacting every aspect of life. I really wouldn't want to go there. I'll just straightway start with what's the impact on HR, particularly of ML. But before I do so, it is impacting everyday's life any which ways. Whatever we eat today, who is supposed to be your friend, which places you should visit, which movie you should see, what book you should read. You may be thinking it is all your choice, but you are very subtly being guided by some force, and it has a huge sort of impact on everyone's life. Now, when we talk about how ML is shaping life, or these technologies are shaping life, particularly, I think it has a huge impact on putting human into the center of our business by taking a lot of repetitive, mundane tasks. And it's going to be very exciting because that's where the real potential of humans are going to be challenged. Now, be it agile that we talk about, agile HR, we talk about recruitment, employee experience, all these aspects are getting impacted, and in a very positive way. It wouldn't have been possible earlier for somebody to reach to 25, 28 different states in India to hire people. Today, a seamless integration with your system where people just submit their CVs, algorithms check and shortlist those, and then put it to the next stage. There are 5 questions that you answer at a place of your choosing, whenever you want, by taking 4 breaks, which will be analyzed by machine learning algorithms, and results will be passed on. And recruitment always have been clunky. I know there are people who will talk about recruitment in detail. We don't do good job of getting back to our candidates, the feedback. All this can be really taken care of well. And when we talk about employee experience, I think a lot of panelists and all previous conversation that we had made a point that employee experience is going to be central for organization to differentiate. And if you really don't know what your people want, if you don't have data, then it's very difficult for you to design your strategies to really make an impact. So whether it's a sentiment analysis, if you have 60,000 people across 15 different locations, you want to do a org transformation, or you are coming out with a new initiative, it's very easy for you to get sense of how people feel in a real time. So there is a huge impact on their And very small things like routing all your requests to help desk, what's happening with my pay slip, what's your leave policy, if it's all channelized through intelligent bots, at least you'll have a data. First layer of support is provided there, and that data is hugely beneficial for you to really know what are the processes which are broken, what employees are looking for, how can you make, really, really transformative sort of impact. And many more, I'll let other panelists kind of take.
Thanks, Sanjay. I think I made a lot of relevant points. Maybe I'll just try and stress specifically on recruitment, spend decent amount of time in the e-recruitment field. So we are at a cusp of very interesting times. So you see at one level that the kind of data that we are starting consuming and feeding has increased significantly. So let's take 2 decades back. We had paper resumes and then e-recruitment came in. Today at an average for a decent entry-level position, for a 1 to 2 vacancy, a recruiter gets more than 240 to 250 applications. And that gets shortlisted to around 10, 15 relevant applicants, and then it moves on. So it's a clear case of automation which is available.
Absolutely.
And we have been able to do it because that automation today is available. And in 2 ways, as you said, the 4th industrial revolution. But beyond that, larger organizations are today co-opting the large tech plays to understand there is a win-win for all. So just recently, if there's a news that Microsoft opened some 17,000, 18,000 libraries in the ML/AI world. So the cusp is both things have happened together. Business need to automate, move faster, and similarly, capability of technology has improved. I don't see humans becoming irrelevant at any point of time. Interconnectedness, these kind of talks, I hope robots don't start doing it in the near future. So that personal connect would still stay very important, and I think that's where you need to delineate the automated, redundant tasks we take through the workflow, but the candidate experience, the candidate connectedness needs to be where a human will typically step in.
Absolutely, I agree with you. It can store more data than human or even our infrastructure, right, with the help of all the cloud and other things. To you, what are the evolution that has happened thus far? If you,
Thank you for the question. Well, I felt the applicant tracking system, which Nilab just spoke about, has brought a kind of a revolution when I talk about in terms of evolving the talent management process and acquiring talents all across. And I also feel that human resources as a department, if we add technology to it, the human still remains the same and the technology does add a little bit of more value to it because it does not really transcend into invaluable. When also we talk about evolution, I can talk about how it has eased the payroll process. When you have chatbots, earlier employees who have just joined the organization will run to HR for each and everything. Where do I find my ID card? Where do I find my coffee machine? Where do I find where? And that's how the chatbots come into presence. And in Value Labs, we have a chatbot called Dan. So all it does is in the morning, you just come and say, "Hi, Ipshita, good morning. How's the morning for you?" And I just ping him and say, "It's wonderful." And I say, "Hey, Dan, I need to book a meeting room. Would you help me?" He said, "Yes. Which meeting room are you looking for? Which floor are you looking for?" And it just does it. How beautiful it is. I don't have to run around everywhere, look into intranet, and then block it. So it's eased the process. The accessibility is faster. The process is more at ease. And also would like to touch point on the engaging part. Attrition is always a big game changer in an IT sector, which has hit us in all walks of life. Whether we hire campus recruitments, whether we hire lateral hiring, attrition has always been the nerve point which we always do it. So we started with descriptive analytics, then came the diagnostic analytics, and then finally the predictive analytics, where it actually helped us to understand, okay, this is a description why people are leaving. This is a description why they are leaving. Now we are at a point where we can say who all are the people who are probable employee turnover cases. So it helps us to arrest the attrition and work towards the retention, which is important. So these are some which I can think on top of my mind. That's it.
I'll just add to what Ipshita mentioned. See, we can divide it into 3 parts. This entire evolution. One is the activities that humans were doing, but that wasn't best use of their time. Obviously those are the the most fit cases for moving to either AI or ML, and because algorithms can do far better intelligent job than humans. Second category is where humans were doing fine, but along with ML and AI, they can do better. That space is a very interesting space because we really don't know until we really know what were humans not doing well. For example, I was reading one article in MIT magazine, and it was mentioned that there is a startup which is doing, it is collecting data. So all the interviews that happen for the harassment cases should happen via bot because humans are intrinsically biased. Everyone must have gone through the unconscious bias training. Has it removed your unconscious bias? No. Research says very difficult to remove unconscious bias, but it's easy for us to debase or debias the algorithm. So if you have to have a meaningful conversation, whether it's on performance or harassment or something didn't really go well, it has to happen just in time. The person should be well trained on something called as cognitive interviewing, which most of people are not trained. Research shows that as you start getting into a conversation, your first interruption comes within 7 seconds. So how do you change that experience so that people can give more meaningful, right information about what's happening in the organization? The bots are doing that. They are trained, algorithms are trained on cognitive interviewing. And they start with so-called open-ended most important questions. So tell me all that happened. And then it takes you through that conversation. So, these are other domains which humans we thought were doing well, but now we have algorithms which are doing equally well or maybe better. And third one is we don't even know what's the potential. That's where, we are talking about AI. So I think it's going to be evolution. Where we are today may not be the most ideal place, but another 5-10 years, I think there's going to be a lot more that we will expect from humans, that there will be a lot more that we will expect from algorithms.
Okay.
So I think just to add to your point, and it's a very important point that we should not look at them as silos, though earlier I said that you can look at them as silos when you're explaining it. So one thing that we went through this journey. So on a monthly level, I just tell you the kind of quantum of data that we handle. We handle around 100 to 20,000 applications on a monthly basis through a recruiter team. And the first answer was that problem that we were trying to solve is how do we try and automate it? And it went through the rule-based or automations which had CV screeners and all, and it reached a certain accuracy level of 65-70%. And then that's when the idea of bringing ML came in. But it was not a clear-cut ML solution we went for because of these challenges of, how will it evolve? Is there a possibility it might have an unconscious bias? So it's a beautiful solution that came out of it. We built a recommendation system where we take certain data points from a profile or a resume, and then based on that, we try and give a recruiter a recommendation. And based on that, the recruiter will then shortlist these resumes and move forward. This typically becomes another input variable back into my data point. And the system keeps on learning, those deep learnings keeps on making my predictive analytics better. And it's a beautiful use case where from those early 64-65% accuracy, today we are at a 86% accuracy levels. So that is an example. Just to one more point. I think while we're trying to answer how ML has evolved, we should also see why ML. Because end of the day, it's a business need that we need to solve, we need to address, aside from just chasing a technology just for the sake of it. So at least in recruitment, I see 3 or 4 clear reasons why this has come in. One, the quantum of data that is there for a recruiter to take it through a flow. Today, a hot talent in a market typically does not stay more than 10 days, 12 days. So this question is always there. How do you go after this passive candidate? So that's the second point that I can think of. And the time to hire talent is also increasing, and business is suffering. There is a study by a leading institute in India which says now at an average, and I don't know whether you correlate with that and the audience, it takes 35 days to hire a good quality candidate. So these are 3 or 4 points where you can either build a passive hiring solution in the recruitment space or a cost efficient or a solution. And then you start looking at what is the thing that the ML strategy will deliver out of that.
And I agree with you because nowadays how you get the requirement is, especially from my hiring managers, at least I see that I'm just quoting an example. This is not true. I need a He-Man with a combination of Superman and a Spider-Man. This is what I keep telling, right? I'm sure ML will help us in all this, definitely. You know, you can't get a combination of all three men, but someone flying, someone with a different rope that they are wearing, and someone with the superpower is what we can get. I'm sure with ML will help us in all this. I have a question to audience here, because I'm sure you are more learned than most of us, and we talk about robots, right? How are the emotional intelligence doing, right? We have a lot of movies coming up. Chitti recently, Rajnikant fell in love with a human. So how, how relevant is it, and how is this emotional intelligence connected to robot? Yeah, whatever. I'd like to understand from the audience, if any of you, sure.
The challenge with machine learning is who are programming them, humans. In terms of evolution, the human has grown from a person who used to use two sticks to do a fire, now to having a furnaces which can be to 12,000 degrees Celsius. Okay. Now, giving that idea, it has evolved over these many years. Machine learning on right now is what is happening is within the span of 10 days, what was happening 10 days back is not happening right now. It is evolving. With that, the artificial intelligence is giving them a backup which says, if this is the case, this will happen. But the feedback is still the human. So when you're talking about emotional intelligence, it is again individual who is going to program it, because
Correct.
his emotional
Humans
attitude
do.
may be different from the person who's there. But there will be a certain base area which will still govern it, saying that killing is wrong, but killing at the border, is it right or wrong, is where the challenge lies. And killing when somebody is going to rob the house is right or wrong is the next level. And killing to protect yourself from harm is still another area of challenge. So in all this case, the machine learning says killing is wrong. But when you involve the emotional intelligence, it says one is right, two is wrong.
True. So machine learning actually kind of teaches computer to understand the way human thinks, right? So that pattern. So is there any gray area in this?
So, you know what? That exactly could be the strength for machine learning. Wherever you are supposed to take objective decisions, but because humans are involved and they can color their perception and their actions because of exactly the same biases, it could be very powerful. But it could turn out to be not so great tool where you have to use all of those discretions, but you're relying on an algorithm. So I think the use of algorithms is becoming very, very predominant in many of the governments. So U.S. government is taking a lot of decisions where they should send police patrol, where they should, what should be the probation period, who should be sentenced for what period. And these decisions are being taken by algorithms today. And they are being challenged also, because many of these algorithms are black box. And if a human bias that you want to eliminate creeps into that program algorithm, then God save us. It is difficult. So then there are discussions about ethical AI, there are discussions about Bargill standards, there are discussions about transparency. But I think it's going to evolve. But if you just compare it with what we have today, it is still not a utopian world. You make a decision about somebody's hiring or somebody's promotion basis three people's biases. You might have a system, of course, but still, there is those biases. If you replace it with AI, machine learning algorithms, is going to be better or not? Is the question, because, if you compare it with today's solutions, I think it is still a credible alternative, but has to be used, very sensibly.
True. You want to? Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it also depends how you are using it. So in recruitment, let's take it straight cut. If you're, say, using a tool which typically is social recruiting, where you goes and you screen and use it through social profiles, bias will creep in. That you just can't avoid it. That's where we typically came with this idea, we will not enforce, we will recommend. And that's humans will take the second decision. So it largely will depend on how you want to use it.
Sorry, so just to a very data savvy company like Amazon, somebody from Amazon, with all due respect, nothing against, but they were using the algorithm which they found was biased against women. You know, it was suffering from something called as Simpson's, I don't know, I'm not a statistician, but it is something Simpson's bias or something, and they found, oh no, this is not a right algorithm, and they had to drop it. So, you know, to get it right, it's going to be constant evolution.
Okay, if I have to ask a different question, is technology is no longer within the technology department, right? It's with all the human resources. So how equipped are we as a human resource, function? How equipped are we, to handle all this or to execute all this? Because no longer we have a technology division who will only do all this and we would execute, right? If we are bringing in a tool, app, we are the ones who are working closely, we are the ones who are working with the service provider to ensure that there is a seamless execution. So as HR professionals, how are we training ourselves, or how are we equipping ourselves?
Yeah, I would like to pick that up. So also to his point, I wanted to add and then pick this up. Why? Because what he's bringing is more on the social psychological aspect, which machine learning at this point of time, we do not have expertise on what Sanjay was also mentioning. So to have an algorithm run, we have feature engineering, where the conscious or subconscious bias is taking a split these days. I work with a team of digital consulting who explain this to us because we as an HR have questions. So what we do not touch in machine learning are the sensitive issues, because they are the people issues which HR have to come forward. But more on the aspect of how operationally we can run it better is what is the basic algorithm that goes in, at least in most of the HR industries that we see today. So that is always there, which is called feature engineering. Maybe if you go back and read more about it, you will know that how feature engineering in various sectors, that how it echo in the mind. To what even Nilab said about a topic on recruitment. So how many of you know that we nowadays do virtual reality recruitment? You know about it? Great. So, so this is what the new generation understands. And this virtual reality will throw you the traits about what kind of a person that you should onboard, for what specific role that you are looking at, where the machine is self-learning in terms of giving you the right output. So I wanted to add a point here, then maybe Nilab would also, and Sanjay can as well. So we do a hiring specific, which is called the N-band hiring, which is the next generation hiring. Trust me, sir, the young recruits who come to the organization just have one hand to say, I want to work in ML and AI. So this N-band hiring, we have done this from the last 3 years. The first year, we went ahead with the vanilla hiring, where we go to campus, we put them through an online recruitment test, and they do it, and then we get the talent after a series of interviewing process. Second year, we tried doing something different, where we got the application the cognitive extractor, which attracts basically extract the information from a CV and let us know these are the candidates that you're looking forward for. So what happened is we were able to let go of the ones which we don't want to interview, generally not interested. Having said that, we had around 1% of people who were actually had the skills, but they haven't updated their CV. So that was always the change which was always expected in it. Then we went ahead and did Hacker Earth Challenge, where we throw away the coding competition, and whosoever won it, we hired them. So these all are machine learning participants, coding competition, which we basically went through with. The observation which I had out of this is, while we felt 90% of it is our success rate, because these candidates whom we picked are doing extremely well. Extremely well. So we had the data of appraisal, because data is the most important factor when you're doing analytics or machine learning. If your data is not right, it will not give you the right output. As simple as that. So it did work for us, at least as a company, for Value Labs, it did work. And we are still continuing. We are still continuing the approach. And maybe next year we will be in a better position to release a study or a blog about it. But this is my personal opinion, because I head the campus team. Thank you.
So, sir, I think very, very apt question. I really don't have an answer, but I'll just give you my perspective. Today, also, organizations really don't have data how many hires were type 1 and type 2. How many we hired who we shouldn't have, how many we rejected who we should have. We don't have that data, so you really don't have a benchmark. If you go by popular press study, they claim that there is 30 to 40% better outcomes through if humans and AI work together. But you again have made a very important point. It cannot be gospel truth. It has to be taken with pinch of salt. A lot of people say NLP has reached to the 90% of sophistication level of humans. Yeah, so that's what a lot of people were claiming. Allen Institute of Artificial Intelligence in US did a study. So one of their professors, it's a highly acclaimed study, you can Google it. He picked up 257 questions, and the questions were typically like this. This trophy cannot fit in the orange suitcase because it is big. All right, this trophy cannot fit in the orange suitcase because it is big. Second, this trophy cannot fit in the orange suitcase because it is small. What is big in the first sentence and what is small in the second sentence are two different things. NLP, the smartest of NLP algorithms, could not identify the difference between both the statements. In the first statement, the pronoun is, this trophy cannot fit in the orange box because it is too big. What is too big? Trophy. Yeah? This trophy cannot fit in the orange suitcase because it is too small. What is too small? Suitcase. NLP algorithm couldn't differentiate between both. The success of one of the very sophisticated algorithm was only 57%. Same thing was put across the human beings and success was 94%. Yeah, so there is a lot of hype around ML, AI. So if you want to deploy those solutions, please take some experts and do due diligence.
So we have done some studies, so I can share. Though maybe it's partial. We typically, and we have to understand what we are trying to benchmark against. So there is this earlier period where we are getting these many applications, and I'm asking my recruiters to go through these applications, which are physically just not possible. So what I did is I built a rule-based automated screener or recommender, which was shortlisting these applications. Now when ML came in, we started looking at data points, created a big data solution, built a model, and started providing recommendations. That meant a score from -1 to +1. -1 is a perfect mismatch, +1 is a perfect match. And that shortlist is provided to the recruiter without the score. So there is no enforcement there. And from there, we try and find out a true positive or a true negative. My score was positive, and the person got selected and joined. My score was negative, and he did not get selected. And false positive and negative is vice versa. At least as far as the selection is concerned, we have reached a situation of 86% accuracy on this score. But yeah, it is not trying to monitor success in the job. And maybe it works as far as entry-level hiring is concerned, which we specialize in. So,
I think we time up. I've got indications. So if there's any question, we can always take it outside. Thank you. We enjoyed speaking. I hope it was.
Thank you. Thank you for an amazing and engaging dialogue. And may I please ask you to stay on the stage?